things get out of hand, fire exits are here. Also, you're welcome to stay after the talk from 8 to 9. We'll just kind of be hanging out and talking. First, I'd also like everyone to silence their cell phones, keep them away for the whole event. Let's have a real-life experience here. You can tweet about it later. Your mom will text you back. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Chuck Klosterman. Mr. Klosterman is a writer of exceptional range and intelligence. As an essayist for Spin, Esquire, GQ, the New York Times Magazine, and now Grantland.com, Klosterman has produced mind-bending essays and books on topics ranging from heavy metal music to football, from The Wire and Breaking Bad to Britney Spears, from Batman to Manti Te'o's fake girlfriend. He has written 2 sharp-witted, imaginative novels, and he's the creator of the spectacular hypotheticals that have provoked debate and hilarity in our community. In recent years, Klosterman has weighed ethical scenarios each week as the New York Times Magazine's Ethicist. As he considers these ambiguous, unwieldy situations, Klosterman is not at all self-righteous, and he doesn't accept that society's rules are inherently correct. Instead, he questions our basic ethical premises and explores the philosophical forces beneath each question. In short, Chuck Klosterman sees the world as it is. It might seem ironic that a fiction writer interested in playful hypotheticals, celebrities, films, and bands would view our complex society so clearly. But it is precisely Klosterman's willingness to write honestly about every aspect of our lives that allows him such unflinching insight into our deepest human contradictions and biases. Indeed, Klosterman's sense that each aspect of our lives deserves scrutiny, particularly the aspects we don't necessarily think of as academic or intellectual, has been transformational for many of us here in the Peddie English department. Personally, I am deeply grateful for the hundreds of conversations and laughs that Klosterman's writing and model of thinking have brought to my classes. Tonight, we will hear from a writer who exemplifies thoughtful engagement with the world, a writer who is curious, unpretentious, empathetic, in love with ideas, and always asking and answering big questions about the nature of experience and reality. It is with great excitement that we welcome Chuck Klosterman to Peddie.
Thank you. Thanks for coming here. Sorry you guys got a stain in the back. You look cool though. Well, it's great to be here. I'm very excited to be here. I'm not just saying that because that's something a guy says when he shows up. I actually am. Because I almost never, ever give talks at high schools. And this interests me for many reasons. Usually, when I give these talks, they're at colleges. And when I go to the college, I kind of get mostly just like an understanding of the kind of kids who go there. Like, if I go to an Ivy League school a lot of times, it'll be a small group of very smart kids who really want me to know that they are bored. And they will go out of their way to prove it to me. But then sometimes I'll go somewhere different. I went to the University of South Florida, and I gave a talk to about 300 kids, and a third of them were drunk. So you think, aha, that's funny. It's way funnier. It was noon, and it was Thursday. I had no idea how it happened. I was like, I don't know. It was just crazy. And I was like, at one point, they were laughing so hard at things that weren't necessarily funny. I actually said, who here has been drinking? And a third of the people said, yeah, now maybe they were lying, but I don't really know what their motive would be. So it's cool kind of being in a high school. I have to say, and this one just, I'm from North Dakota. I went to a public school there. There was 23 kids in my graduating class. I come from a farm. This is the first time I have ever been at a boarding school. And as I mentioned to some of the people when I walked in here, I think it's very cool you go to a boarding school because if your only understanding of boarding schools is through movies, they seem draconian. It's like people are always getting hazed and everyone's secretly anti-Semitic and someone gets thrown. Somebody's always getting thrown out of school because they're too truthful by a guy in a bow tie in a little room there. Many guys have bow ties here, seemingly black and white photos, you know. So I think the bow tie element does exist. So I'm impressed that I think you have a lot. You know, you went against the grain of the popular culture. Other thing that another reason I'm excited to be here is because, you know, when you go to college, I'm sure everybody in here, I'm guessing because this seems like a pretty good school, you'll probably almost all go to college unless you're too smart for college. And then like you'll go make a movie or something. Most of you will go to college. At college, things like this happen all the time. Like it's not that, you know, you could go to a lyceum or a lecture every night you want. In high school, they happen less often. So in some ways, it will have like a little more impact on your life. Although there are 4 impacts that may happen, okay? A fourth of the people who are here in 10 years will not remember this happened at all. You will have 0 memory that I was here. My name might come up in conversation, you'll be like, who's that? You know? Like, you'll see a picture of me, you'll be like, I think I knew that guy once. You'll have no idea. A fourth of it will just be totally wiped clean, no memory, okay? A fourth of you will remember it, and you'll remember it as like dumb. You'll be like, that guy was weird. What a waste of my time, you know? It's like I'm gonna miss the beginning of Survivor. You know? Third of you, or fourth of you, will be like, I remember it. It's pretty good. I liked it. He seemed like an okay guy. It was fun, you know? And then a fourth of you, and this is the most interesting, you will go on to a very kind of intellectual life. And you will have had a great time at this. And later in life, when you're talking to other intellectuals about my appearance, you will be very embarrassed you liked it. And you'll be like, oh, I can't believe that I thought this guy, this fake hipster douchebag, so interesting. Like how embarrassed I am that I wasn't, you know. But here's the deal. Also remember that I knew that was going to happen, which means I'm a genius. But here's the principal reason that I'm excited to be here, which is more applicable to your experience. I didn't know what I should talk about. I've been told that like some of my books were used in these classes, so I was very flattering. It's awesome to have that happen. It's amazing. You know, well, I guess some classes use a novel I wrote called Downtown Owl. So I was like, should I come and read from Downtown Owl? Is that what they want me to do, sort of? So I sent a little email to somebody. I don't even know who it was. And I sent an email to the people who set up the speech, and they emailed them, and they got back to me. And someone had said, like, you know, well, he can talk about whatever he wants, you know, because when I go to colleges, a lot of times I talk about this, the speech is called Life Through the Prism of Pop Culture, which I didn't come up with. I'm represented by a Canadian speaking group. They came up with this title. So I spend a lot of time describing what a prism is, a lot of time, you know. So I was like, well, I could do that talk, you know, talk about these ideas of culture, you know. But they said, like, actually, some of these classes, or at least one of these classes, I think the class from the guy who introduced me, like uses these hypothetical questions in the class. So I was like, you know, this is, I'll tell you like this is like, you know, this is promotional. Like, these are what they are, okay? Like, okay, what's the story behind these is, my second book was an essay collection called Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. In fact, if you know who I am, it's probably the only book you know. It's more popular than all my other books combined. Okay, well, it's a book of essays that are broken up with these little interstitial one-page, kind of like, I don't know, whatever you call them, interstitials. And one of these, in the original hardcover of the book, was 3 questions, which I said that I asked people to find out if I could ever possibly fall in love with them. And that actually was kind of true, because I can't make small talk. I can't do it. I'm terrible at it. So I would rather, if I go on a date with somebody, I ask a big question right away, and a weird question usually, because I'm not interested so much in the answer, but how they go about thinking about it. So I do these 3 questions, and then when the book came out in softcover, my editor said, people really seem to like these 3 questions. Too bad you don't have 20 of them. So I was like, I'll write 20 more. I can do that. That's not, you know, because this is the way I think, right? So I came up with these 23 questions now. And it's probably, in truth, weirdly, the most successful thing in terms of what people remember about my writing I've ever done. which is weird because it's not really writing. It's like, here's a weird idea that could like be a Twilight Zone episode or a Black Mirror episode or something. But people really seem to respond to them. And then eventually, somebody else said, hey, you got more of these, we can make them into a collection of cards that we can sell at the airport, you know? And it's true, you go to the airport, and a lot of times they have these big vending machines with a very strange collection of things. Usually like Dr. Dre headphones, condoms, some like Kit Kats, these cards. I have no idea what the relationship is. I feel like I'm still like, you know, I probably sold like 25,000 of these decks now, you know. So I realized that, well, it must be something I'm okay at, you know. But, you know, I did this in 2000 and, for the most part, 2002. I wrote the original 3 questions in like 2002, or maybe even 2001. In 2001, and then I wrote the other 20 questions, so there were 23 questions in 2002. And then a lot of the other questions in this deck had just sort of, I just saved along the way, I guess, from less successful days. But now, of course, that means they're like 10 years old. So I was wondering, it's like, will people who were, you know, very young, I'm guessing, what, 7 years old or 8 years old when I wrote these, now that you're kind of becoming adults, will you respond and answer these questions in the same way that people did when I first wrote them, you know? Because I used to go, I do readings sometimes, and I'd read these questions, and especially at bookstores, and people would just, you know, we'd talk back and forth about how they would answer the question. So I was like, I'm going to do that, okay? So I'm going to go through, I'm going to ask some of these questions. I'm going to read them, and then and I know it's always weird to like talk in a group and stuff like that. Nobody wants to do it, but it would really make things better if you do, okay? I would be curious, if I read these questions and an answer comes to your mind, raise your hand, tell me what it is, kind of go around, and we'll see how the room splits up, and then I'll sort of talk about what the original idea of the question was. And here's the important thing, okay? There is no right or wrong answer to any of these questions. In fact, if I put it in this deck, it means that when I tried to ask these questions to people, like, I guess, for lack of a better term, like the focus group, which is my friends, you know, I only used it if it seemed to split roughly 50-50. If everybody thought something, I didn't want to use it, you know. I'm looking for things that are consciously balanced, you know, consciously kind of negotiable. So I'm not like, it's not like you're going to be wrong. I'm just curious about what the answer is and what your thinking process is to come to that conclusion, because the one thing you will learn in life, it doesn't matter what you pursue, if you're going to the arts, if you're going to the sciences, it doesn't matter if you're going to politics, whatever the case may be, the most important thing that will dictate your level of success, 2 things will dictate your level of success. One, actually, is chance. People hate to admit it, but chance is the biggest factor in life. The other thing, though, which you can control, is critical thinking. If you're able to think critically about problems, you will succeed in virtually anything you do, regardless of the field. You might not get famous, you might not get rich, but you will be a competitive person. You will be perceived by your peers as like someone worth talking to. So that's the whole thing. So don't worry about what your actual answer is. I'm only kind of concerned about how you kind of came to the conclusion. Okay. Here's one that I think this might be the very first question that I came up with. It's called rudimentary magician. Let us assume you met a rudimentary magician. Let us also assume that he can do 5 simple tricks. He can pull a rabbit out of his hat. He can make a coin disappear. He can turn the ace of spades into the joker card. And he can do 2 others in a similar vein. These are his only tricks, and he can't learn anymore. He can only do these 5. However, it turns out he's doing these 5 tricks with real magic. It's not an illusion. He can actually conjure the bunny out of the ether, and he can move the coin through space. He's legitimately magical, but extremely limited in scope and influence. Would this person be more impressive than Albert Einstein? So we got somebody who's a magician, a very sort of limited, kind of boring magician, but it's real magic. Is that more impressive to you than the work of Einstein? This guy.
definitely more impressive because he's actually magical and no one else is magical. Whereas Albert Einstein is smart, but anyone can be smart.
So in a sense, your assumption is that the magic is not a learned thing. He doesn't get credit for being magical.
Yeah. I mean, he's just magical.
Yeah. Do you like sports at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's more impressive to you? LeBron James or Steve Nash?
I don't know either one.
Well, okay, in general, what's more impressive to you? An incredibly physical athlete or someone who through work and grit succeeds?
I mean,
There's no wrong answer.
if you're like really talented, good for you. And if you're better than the person that worked hard for it, like you deserve to be better than that. Yeah.
I mean, is there anybody here who okay, you?
No, I just going off of the whole the magician and Albert Einstein. One of the things I don't think in this case he would be more impressive is because or more famous necessarily because of what he can do and because it's real magic. And one of the things, you know, the whole concept behind Einstein was like all these theorems and everything, and this man is disproving them. He's taking Einstein's fame and he's wiping it
You know,
away.
that's actually a very good point that was pointed out to me by many physicists. Dace has really good I got a written letter from a guy, I think he was from MIT. I'm not saying you're going to make it at MIT. Don't use the letter or essay or recommendation. It won't be enough. But he did say, he's like, if someone could move a coin through space magically, it would disprove almost everything Einstein argued for. So that the magician actually, nullifies the idea of Einstein. Okay, your genius.
No, but I think with the if you want to talk about natural talent versus hard work, I think it's like there's like chronology to it, and it's where if for example, let's say if LeBron and Nash played against each other when they were little kids, and LeBron was he was always big and Nash was little, and LeBron used to beat him up all the time and kick his butt, then that's LeBron is the better one clearly, and if Nash could through hard work and through working hard eventually come over LeBron by some godly power, then that's kudos to him. Whether or not that's the hard work then pays off. It's like whoever's on top at the end. And I think with this, the fact is he's disproving Einstein and he's beating that, so he's now he's on top.
Yeah.
If someone comes along and disproves him through hard work, then it's on them.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on this? Back there, okay.
Well, I think
Yes.
because Einstein's making tangible contributions to society to secure himself
Yes.
in that hand project and so forth, where the magician is just moving stuff.
No, that's
Part of this tangible results with Einstein versus the magician
what you're really talking about is the concept of utility.
Yeah.
Like the Miltonian utility. John Milton was this philosopher who talked about utilitarianism, and the idea that the value of something has to do with what it gives to society. And it's true, the magician gives nothing to society unless we need a lot of rabbit food. If we want to eat a lot of rabbits, we can just get them left and right. I guess he'd be good in a famine. But other than that, it doesn't really do anything, whereas Einstein sort of allows us to build atomic weapons. Move to the next one now. Okay, this one is called the Dream VC. Oh, I was going to say one last thing about this, because it kind of, it's a curious, the book that I talked about, Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs, that this is from, I wrote that book in about 3 months. It just came really fast, okay? Most of my books take over a year, okay? But I wonder, if I said that I had written that book in 2 nights, as opposed to working on it for 10 years, would it be more or less impressive? Because let's say, you might say, well, 2 nights, of course, But what if I was able to do it like this? Just knocking my hands against the keyboard, and the book came out. Like, would I deserve any credit for that, This is the whole thing about, learn things against, just sort of natural things. It's like a real central question. What do we find more impressive? Like a musician who just has naturally perfect pitch, or somebody who sits in their room and plays guitar for hours and hours and hours and gets good? What deserves respect? Ability or work? This one is called the Dream VCR. This question obviously has not dated particularly well. I'm assuming no one here has a VCR. It's kind of, oh, you do. That dude has a VCR. Do you still use it? You do. You record things on your VCR? You set it up like 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Wow. Why? So I mean, that's very cool. It's like that gives you this is the genius. You have the most credibility in the room. And you're real. That's authentically old school. So I should be using I guess a DVR. But everybody knows what a VCR is, though, right? We just don't know what they are. Okay. At long last, someone invents the Dream VCR. This machine allows you to tape an entire evening's worth of your own dreams, which you can then watch at your leisure. However, the inventor of the Dream VCR will only allow you to use this device if you agree to a strange caveat. When you watch your dreams, you must do so with your family and your closest friends in the same room. They get to watch your dreams along with you. And if you don't agree to this, you can't use the Dream VCR. Would you still do this? Okay, this is like a yes or no. So raise your hand if you say yes. Okay, raise your hand if you say no. Okay, let's begin with the people who said yes. I mean, if you said yes to this, what is your reason? Anybody? Somebody? I'm trying to. Anybody said yeah? I didn't. Okay, there you go. Okay.
I don't know. A lot of dreams are really cool, and being able to watch them over and over again would be awesome. And super, even if they're so what, flying around like an eagle or something. I don't know. It'd be cool to live through.
Yeah, and what would somebody else said?
There's nothing really going on in your dreams if you're fine. Everyone said no, obviously.
You guys said anything?
My family and friends love you. They're going to accept it.
Okay, now of the people who said no, what is your reason for saying no? Did you say yes or no?
I said no.
Okay.
I think that despite the fact that your family loves you, I think that there are some things that you may want to sort of stay in your dreams. And that even if you were to watch it in a video, that doesn't mean they're going to be feeling some emotions and experiencing the same. You're just watching a movie or
Yes.
what happened. And to watch a movie, I don't think it's really like watching videos like old vacations or your baby videos. You don't experience that again. You just watch yourself experience.
Okay.
So I feel like that's a key.
Here's the follow-up. Can you be blamed for what you dream?
Yes.
Okay. This might be a generational shift. People usually go, well, of course not. Why yes?
You can. Thoughts.
Well, it's your thoughts, but your unconscious thoughts. You can't help it.
But you think them at some time.
So everything you dream, you think in real life you have thought.
And sometimes you have.
That's interesting, man. What do you dream about? It's interesting. My dreams are so bizarre. It's like I usually can't even describe them. My wife's dreams, she'll be mad if I say this, seem just like her life. She works at Entertainment Weekly, and she'll wake up sometimes, and she'll be like, "Oh, I had this weird dream," and I was like, "What's the dream?" Well, I had to write a blurb about the new Twilight movie, but then it went too long, so I had to cut 14 words out to fit. And I'll be like, that might have happened. But other people who said no. What is your? I'm curious about this. Why would you? Is it the fear of embarrassment, or the fear that people would learn? Okay, this guy.
Like, no matter what, subconsciously, people will try to So if you find anything embarrassing, like embarrassing or whatever, then your family is immediately going to like think whatever.
Well, that's a good point. Do you now, if, what would bother you more? If people thought something about you that was true and negative, or if people thought something negative about you that was false, that wasn't true at all? Would it be the same? I guess I'm just, it is remarkable. I would say one thing that seems to have changed is more people said no to this than usual. Usually it is pretty close to 50-50, but I guess...
You are asking an audience full of hormones.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess ultimately, while no one's really saying it, that's the fear, the sexual nature of the dream. You know what I mean? Like, I suppose it could be possible you have a dream where you, like, murder your dad. And that can be hard to explain, but not nearly as hard as, like, one where you have sex with your dad. That could be real weird. I guess it's more shocking than I guess it's as shocking. Okay. I didn't think it would be that shocking to say that. You know, it's like I feel like I went to Scope's monkey trial or something, and I'm just like, man, and so you just, you know, murmur, murmur. I don't know, I feel like, you know, here's my answer. My answer would be, I would of course be worried about it, but I would just think, there's so much, I really feel like dreaming is the most underrated aspect of reality that we've almost given up trying to understand. I mean, a huge part of your life, you are living a separate reality in your mind while you're sleeping, and no one knows why. You know, some people think it's just like leftover electrical impulses. In your mind, they just start firing away, and you're just creating these images because part of your brain deals with visuals and makes visuals. You know, sometimes people have said that dreams exist to prepare us for things, not the actual event of the dream, but like a lot of dreams, you know, prepare you for things that are going to happen in life. It's kind of weird. I found out, supposedly, about 80% of dreams are bad dreams. Like, it's only like a fifth of dreams are positive. We tend to remember the positive ones, they say, but most dreams are, you know, give you a lot of anxiety. It's got to mean something to me. So I'd want to do this. Just I feel like I'd learn something about myself that I'm maybe afraid to ask myself, but you know, but that's just me. Okay. Okay. This one's about a horse. People know this one. This one gets very divisive. Let us assume a fully grown, completely healthy Clydesdale horse has his hooves shackled to the ground while his head is held in place with a thick rope. He is conscious and standing upright, but completely immobile. And let us assume that, for some bizarre reason, every political prisoner on Earth, as cited by Amnesty International, will be released from captivity if you can kick this horse to death in fewer than 20 minutes. You are allowed to wear steel-toed boots. Would you attempt to do this? The murmurs seem hard no, okay? Who here would, is anyone here say yes? Okay. Okay, why?
I feel like, I mean, I know exactly, like, horses, killing a horse is hard, and it will be difficult to do, but there's something like, I don't know, unfathomable about being a political prisoner that's just, like, horrendous, that if there's, like, a chance to just, like, miraculously, like, make all of that go away, then I feel like I have, like, a moral responsibility to try and do something to, like, help these people who kind of wouldn't have help otherwise, even though it'd be super hard to try to kick a horse.
Okay, okay, you
Oh, so what you're basically doing is you have to weigh the leg of the horse versus most likely the rest of prisoners' lives. So that kind of comes into consideration. Of course.
Do you like Star Trek?
No.
Oh, okay. This comes up in Star Trek a lot. I thought you were actually going to quote Star Trek. The needs of the many outweigh the
The awkward part though is if you fail to actually kill the horse in 20 minutes. Then you get to feel terrible about yourself.
You feel terrible because you hurt the horse or because like you couldn't do it?
Well,
Yeah, okay. I mean, there are other questions people bring up with this, like when they debate this long enough. One, people will start debating like the value of Amnesty International. They'll be like, I don't know if Leonard Peltier is really a war criminal. It's like they'll argue about the people who would then be freed. Like, are you trusting that Amnesty International is right? That the people that they view as as like political prisoners deserve to be free? There is the question also of, is it possible to even do this? I mean, a Clydesdale is huge. His head would be here. So you have to like take a running start to try to, I don't even know how I do it, you know? You can hop on the horse. You can hop on the horse. So you would be on the back of the horse, kicking it in the head. This is actually sort of like there's a problem that this is, I wouldn't say it's based on, but it's similar. It's like called the trolley problem. Has anyone heard of this? Yeah, I guess everybody has. The idea that you're on a trolley, you're the trolley driver, and the trolley has no brakes, and you're gonna run over 5 guys who are working on the track. And then you realize that while you can't stop the trolley, you can turn the trolley. And if you turn the trolley, you'll just kill this one guy. It'll go the other way and kill this one guy. Would you do this? Well, everyone almost inevitably says yes. It's 5 people against 1 person, I would turn the train. Then the second part of the question is, now you're not controlling the trolley, you're watching it from a bridge above the track. And you see the train coming, and there's a fat guy next to you, or sometimes a pregnant woman. And you realize, if I push this person in front of the trolley, they will die, but it will stop the train. Would you do that? Most people say no. Because even though it's the same, it's basically making a decision that will kill 1 person instead of 5. But in one, it feels as though they have no choice. They are forced to do this already because they are the conductor. The other is like, I'm an outside person, and I got to enter this scenario in order to change the scenario. And I think in this scenario, people sometimes look at it like, if I start kicking this horse, I am actively putting myself in a scenario that I could just as easily stay out of. And I could say the world will exist as it does, and I won't be part of it. So I think people who say yes to this question, not to do too much pop psychology, are people who are more prone to try to get involved with political acts. That they see themselves as willing to enter a situation that they don't want to do, but that will have an impact. People who say no, okay, what's this?
I was going to say, I've heard the idea of you push the fat guy. I've never heard the one with the pregnant woman, and I think my answer would be different if it was a pregnant woman instead of that. It's not secret, but like, this is the big thing. So I wouldn't push the fat guy. Guarantee no problem.
Yeah.
24 years old. So they've lived most of their life already. And these are construction kids.
No, I mean, that's actually a good, I mean, yeah. That,
value this kid's life. But you can't value that guy and construction.
Well, that's because people, whenever there's, say, a military action, and civilians are killed, people are very upset. Particularly if little kids are killed, because like they're seen as innocent. I always found that a little ironic though, because my wife's having a baby this month, or they're having her first kid. So of course I'm thinking about this more. And when I walk by playgrounds and I look at little kids, I gotta say they seem terrible to each other. Like in a way adults never are, It's sort of like, yeah, I guess they're innocent, they're also jerks, but it's like anybody else? Okay.
As soon as you gave more information about whether it was a pregnant woman or a fat man, as soon as I heard more information about that one person, I felt sympathy or empathy towards them, and decided to take
Okay, that's an incredibly real answer, because I think that's how, certainly if we say it's 5 people against somebody you met one time, that might be enough. Right? Like now, does that make you feel good about yourself or worried about yourself? Does it make you feel good because you're empathizing with real people? Or does it make you worried because you think, boy, my emotions are trumping my rationality?
I think it would be smarter and overall healthier and better to save 5 people's lives than one person's life. But I think it's almost selfish to think, this person, if I know more about them and they mean more to me, maybe I should keep them and kill these 5 people.
Because your life has value too. You have to look at yourself at, back there.
Why isn't the question, why don't you jump in front? Like the train, then you avoid food.
Yeah, well, I guess, I guess that's a good point. I mean, here's the thing with hypothetical questions. You can't do that. There are many times, with the horse question, you'd be like, well, I'll just, I'll petition amateur. You can't. The thing about the reason I love hypothetical questions is because they create this vacuum where the only reality is what's on the card. And you can't start bringing in these other things. And, or you can, but you got to stay within sort of the constructs that you begin, like you can't kill yourself in that scenario, or you can't kill yourself, let the horse live, and somehow it doesn't work that way. This guy?
And I think there's also kind of this philosophical aspect to it. For the first scenario, it seems like it's either one or the other. You kill 1 or you kill 5. Whereas for the second scenario, if you are pushing that person over the bridge, you're kind of acting as judge, jury, and executioner. They don't have any standing, so you're basically taking the law into your own hands and making that decision for them.
Yeah.
And I think that would be different wherever you ask them to jump over.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm real convincing. It's like, I know you're pregnant, so listen to this. That's a good question. How would that impact your decision?
Well, I mean, if you push this person off the bridge and no one knew you did it, you could just say, this guy was super noble and took his own life to save him.
Yeah.
And you know what? You were just a witness.
Well, I thought you were going to say a jury of my peers would certainly realize I was doing a good thing for society, but your way's even better. I'll just tell this one line, and he's like, boy, this guy loved the world. Okay. I'm going to move here. This next question's tough, because here again, I'm not sure how it is aged. How many people here are familiar with the music of Alice in Chains? Okay, trying to think of a band that everyone would be familiar with. Okay, who's the modern day Alice in Chains? I guess that would be like Buck Cherry or something. Okay, but is that even more obscure? I don't know. Well, okay, here, Alice in Chains was a band from Seattle. They were part of the grunge movement. Nirvana was the biggest grunge band, then Pearl Jam, then Soundgarden, then Alice in Chains. They're the 4th most important grunge band. Their singer died from, he was a huge drug addict, and then weirdly he actually died from huffing paint. Well, he did all this heroin, and it was like, spray paint killed him, He's a great singer, but he has a very distinctive voice, and the music is very heavy, a little bit like Stone Temple Pilots, a little bit, although if you don't know who Alice in Chains is, that's probably just as bad. But anyway, this band exists, okay? You meet your soulmate, okay? So you gotta believe that soulmates exist. This is like we were saying before, how you gotta believe that, stay within the construct of the question. You might have the belief that there's no such thing as a soulmate. Temporarily believe that you do, okay? You meet your soulmate. However, there's a catch. Every 3 years, someone will break both of your soulmate's collarbones with a crescent wrench. And then okay? And there is only one way to stop this from happening. You must swallow a pill that makes every song you hear for the rest of your life sound like it's being performed by Alice in Chains. When you hear Creedence Clearwater Revival on the radio, or Coldplay, It will sound to your ears like it's being played by Alice in Chains. If you see Radiohead live, every one of their tunes will sound like it's being covered by Alice in Chains. When you hear a commercial jingle on TV, it will sound like Alice in Chains. If you sing to yourself in the shower, your voice will sound like deceased Alice in Chains vocalist Lane Staley, performing a cappella in the shower. But it will only sound this way to you, just to you. Would you swallow this pill? Okay. Let's see what you're saying. What? The whole song? Well, it would sound like Alice in Chains' version. Like if you heard I don't know, "Oh Holy Night" or something, it would sound like Alice in Chains was asked to sing at the church and play that song. If it's like, it would be their version. So what song would it most sound like? I don't know, maybe "We Die Young"? I don't know. It's like, how familiar are you with their catalog?
Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, I feel like if it sounds like the Rooster or Man in the Box, it would be kind of different from each other.
Well, yeah, because they play acoustically too. They did that acoustic EP, so they can kind of do it all. Okay, yeah. Some people respond to this question by saying that would kind of be cool for a while, you know. But a lot.
How quick is the pain that the other person goes through?
Ever broke your collarbone? Okay, well, break your collarbone really hurts, okay? But, here again, it's happening every 3 years. You'd be able to prepare yourself for it a little bit. You know when it's coming, although some people might think that's worse. When I ask this question, I feel like I'm okay back there. They know it. Well, they might not know it the first time, they might not know it the second time, but I guarantee you by year 9 they will know. You know? Now that is an interesting question, because you're saying if this was asked you secretly, you might say no, but if it was in front of the person, you might say yes. Is that what you're implying? Yeah. Yes. So here's the deal. What if this is reversed? You have met your soulmate. Your soulmate is faced with this question. Soulmate asks you, should I do this? Will you? Is it better that you? Would you prefer that I be able to experience the entire range of music, or would you prefer you'll have to then accept this pain? And it is your soulmate. That's the other tricky thing. A lot of people, when I asked this question, I heard a lot of people here go like, yes, yes, because I don't want to be sort of a downer, but like the percentage of you who believes in soulmates is much higher now than it's going to be in 10 years, 20 years. There usually is, the first time you meet your soulmate and it doesn't work out, you're like, that idea does not exist, kind of.
I think it's like really simple to say no, to take it, but I think that you should, like, if they don't know, it doesn't matter, like, you might as well not take it.
What were you at?
Yeah, but if they're your soulmate, presuming that context of that, then you're literally like absolutely in love with them, right?
Yes.
You're 100%.
And in fact, you love them in a way that you can't love anyone else. That your souls match up.
Yeah.
That this is the deepest love you will feel.
Exactly. So you basically have to decide whether you want to. It's your decision. So you're deciding whether to quote unquote possibly ruin your life in the future, or more or less certainly ruin the other person's life for a year every 3 years because collarbones take a while to heal. And plus, while the collarbones are healing, you wouldn't be able to enjoy the relationship as much.
Yeah,
I think
it's true. I guess. You'd be feeding them the soup. Yeah, you're just soup in their mouth. It's like, oh. Yeah.
Oh, well, are you with the person? Because, if you're a soulmate with someone, you don't always have to be together. Maybe it didn't work out once, and then you're, not together at all.
Well, I know, that's, or, your soulmate could die. And now it's like, well, okay, I got this dead soulmate and a lifetime of Alice in Chains. It would be
I feel like if you love someone, like if you just turn off the radio,
it
might hurt you when they get hurt, like not physically hurt you, but like that you have to see them like emotionally go through this pain, and you know it'd be because you decided you didn't want to listen to this music.
No, yeah, I know. One time I was at one of these, I did this, and a woman said, like, of course I do it. And I was like, what's your reasoning? She's like, I hate music. It's a big thing to hate. All nice sound, but...
Could you appreciate the music, though, after you took a pill, knowing that everything in your music, you reminded of the fact that...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the Beatles songs would still be awesome, it's just that they'd be Alice in Chains songs now with the melodies.
No, if you did not take the pill, I don't think you'd be able to enjoy music, because every time you heard music that was normal, you'd be reminded of the fact that you're only listening to that because your soulmate gets...
You would. Music would always remind you of how your soulmate is getting your bones broken.
Well, you can spin that the other way. So if you don't take the pill, every time that your soulmate's collarbone gets broken, you'll know in your mind that you made this decision to have your soulmate suffer every 3 years, and that forever, however long it takes for it to heal, you're pretty much going to be grieving that they're grieving as well. So it's something that both of you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's going to affect your relationship. One thing that no one asked me that someone usually does is like, what would Alice in Chains sound like? I guess no one got that. It's like, okay, this one is, I always like this one, although it's pretty weird. Someone builds an optical portal that allows you to see a vision of your own life in the future. It's essentially a crystal ball that shows a randomly selected image of what your life will be like in 20 years. You're looking at a crystal ball, you'll see what your life is like 20 years from now. You can only see into this portal for 30 seconds. When you finally do this, when you peer into the crystal, you see yourself in a living room 2 decades older than you are today. You are watching a Canadian football game, and you are extremely happy. You are wearing a Canadian Football League jersey. Your chair is surrounded by books and magazines that promote Canadian football, and there are CFL pennants covering your walls. You are alone in the room, but you are gleefully muttering about historical moments in Canadian football history. It becomes clear that, for some unknown reason, you have become obsessed with Canadian football. And this future is static and absolute. No matter what you do, this future will happen. The optical portal is never wrong. This destiny of you loving Canadian football cannot be changed. The next day, you are flipping through television channels and randomly come across a preseason Canadian Football League game between the Toronto Argonauts and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Knowing your inevitable future, do you now watch it?
I've never understood football, ever. I've had so many people try to explain it to me, and I've never understood it. And for years I've been like, I need to understand football. So, I mean, either way, if I'm watching something and it's football, then I'm going to watch because I need to understand.
So you watch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't change it. So.
What would you...
I say no, I don't watch it. It's inevitable that you're gonna become obsessed with it at some point. So like, why waste your time now, sitting here watching football?
I would say prolong it as long as possible. Like if you know it's gonna happen eventually, like why just like start because it's there? Like as long as possible, don't watch the Canadian football.
I'm gonna watch it, and I mean, I personally hate Canadian football. It's like really different, and really dumb.
3 downs.
They have 3 downs, 2 50-yard lines, and 20-yard end zones. And so like it's just not. It's like not football. But like, if it's gonna happen, like, and I'm thinking, why put it off? Like, I mean, it's not like a picker. Like, only Canadian football. Like if I know 20 years down the road, like that's gonna be me, like CFL all the way. Like I'll watch some CFL games, but I'll watch some NFL games. And I'll watch some college football games.
Okay.
Like,
so you're gonna try to just make yourself
Like,
a bigger fan of football
like,
in general.
if I
Maybe
know-
it's just summer. You
if
know,
I
it's
know
like-
the variety's coming, like I'll certainly bring it in, but like it's not gonna. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, that's it. Might as well go. I'm not gonna push it away.
Yeah, but most people are talking about this love of Canadian football as if it's a bad thing. But you clearly saw and envisioned a future that you're like really, really happy in football.
Yes.
So like, why not watch the game? You'll have more to gleefully murmur about.
Really, there's two possible situations here. Either that you were born a CFL fan and you just don't know it. You are a closet CFL fan. Or that something happens in your life
Yes.
later on. That somehow
What could those
turns
things
you
be?
on.
Because I gotta say, this, not to interrupt you, I'll let you finish. But I hate to always do this because but I have found in my experience that this question has like a gender split to it. And women very often come to a conclusion here that had never occurred to me, which is that they had a kid who plays in the CFL, or they married a guy who plays in the CFL. Men never say this. Like, men never say, like, my best friend became, like, a CFL quarterback. But women sometimes do. So what reason would you think could happen that would make this happen?
Well, I have no idea what the reason could be, but I'd say that I would watch it just so I could figure out whether or not I am a born fan of CFL and I just don't know it, or if there's just something mysterious in my future. Because obviously, if I turn on CFL and I have no idea what's going on, or even if somehow once I start to understand it, I hate it, I know that I wasn't born this way. And it's kind of
So like, you play a Lady Gaga album, basically. Back there. Yeah, you.
Well, just knowing that I would like be genuinely happy in 20 years for whatever reason is good enough for me.
People are really touched by that answer. It's a nice answer. Okay. Well, because here's the deal. Part of it has to do with beyond this idea of what could cause this to happen. It's the idea, like, who here believes that to a degree destiny exists? That what your future is going to be is going to happen whether you, almost against your will. Does anyone here believe that? A lot of people do. A lot of people believe in this. I mean, there are whole religions, like Calvinism is all based basically on predestination. And the thing is like, would you fight destiny? If something was supposed to happen and you knew it says in the question, the optical portal is never wrong. And yet, there are many people who would still fight it. And that's an interesting thing. That actually reflects a lot about the human spirit. That somebody would be like, I have no choice, and I'm going to fight anyways.
I don't think not watching the game like today is fighting your destiny. Like, you just don't want to watch it now. You want to watch it eventually, like 20 years down the line, that's fine. But you're not going to watch it. You don't want to watch it now, so there's no need.
You're not going to just, because the trick to this is many people suspect that this question is almost set up as like a hoax. That like, by hearing this, you're going to make your destiny happen. Yeah. You're going to start watching this game because you think you have no choice. That's another, maybe we're supposed to fight our destiny.
Well, because it's only like 30 seconds, 20 years in the future, you don't know like what's gonna happen after that and what's gonna happen before. So how do you know that you're not a CFL fan for a week and then after that you just completely turn it off? Or then before that you didn't watch it at all and then you started watching it for a little bit and that was the one moment of the
Yeah, one guy one time said like, maybe I'm going to play. That's not a terrible answer because it's like, it's pretty weird for an adult to put CFL pennants in their living room for how much they like it. Yeah. Okay, this is called a life in film. We're kind of running out of time. We're cutting a few more. I think people are having a good time though, right?
Yeah.
For whatever the reason, 2 unauthorized movies are being made about your life. The first is an independently released documentary, primarily comprised of interviews with people who know you, and bootleg footage of your actual life. Critics are describing the documentary as brutally honest and relentlessly fair. Meanwhile, Columbia TriStar produced a big-budget biopic of your life, casting major Hollywood stars as you and all of your acquaintances. Though the movie is based on actual events, the screenwriters have taken liberties with the facts. Critics are split on the artistic merits of this fictionalized account, but audiences seem to love it. Which film would you be more interested in seeing first? We assume you're probably going to see both, probably, or neither. But assuming you're going to see both, which one interests you more? The very real documentary of your life, or the fictionalized Hollywood version of your life that isn't really right?
I feel like the fictionalized Hollywood will be more interesting because you're living your actual life.
Okay, start again. I missed the beginning of that.
I feel like the fictionalized Hollywood version would be a lot more interesting because you're living your actual life. So you kind of know what's going on. You have like a very good idea of what your friends would be saying about you.
You do, huh? I mean, do you feel like you know what your friends think of you for real?
I feel like I can kind of like guess most of it, and even so, I wouldn't really want to know.
Okay, you got nothing to hide, basically. You're saying it's like, what could they say? Huh.
I would definitely watch the first one, just because I would be really curious to see what people have to say about me. Because like, people are nice to you to your face, but how do you know they're really your friends? I would be curious to see what people have to say.
I have to say I agree with you. I would be more curious in seeing the documentary, although I've never really been able to explain why.
So, I think the big Hollywood movie, that'd be awesome. Obviously, I want to see it eventually. It sounds great. It also impressed me a little bit when I see this great movie and it's like the main character is me. And yet I go home and it's like, nope, my life is not that awesome. Meanwhile, the documentary, go there, sit through it, maybe the movie is kind of, boring or lame or whatever, but I can like...
Well, you know that apparently it's beloved by the critics. They love it. They seem to think it's great. So it's probably not boring. It would be the most interesting details about your own life.
Well, exactly, and then I can use that to then just change my life. I hear, oh, everyone thinks he's an asshole or whatever. But then I stop doing that.
Oh yeah, so you're saying it's actually practical. Like you can learn things about your life.
Meanwhile, the Hollywood one, I see it and it's like, I will never be that cool.
Yeah, like I won't look like the guy from Friday Night Lights or whoever they put to play you or whatever. Up there? Yeah, but well, you and then you.
I probably watch the documentary first and then the fictional Hollywood movie. The documentary is pretty much your life, just as seen by someone else, so you get another perspective about what people think of you. But in the Hollywood movie, they're pretty much changing the boring parts of your life to be interesting. So you can pretty much see what people see in your life as drab, as boring, it's not interesting whatsoever. And you know what you should change and what you shouldn't change, or what place you can think about that.
That's a good point.
I'm curious on how Hollywood would portray my life. So, like, who would they replace me as, or what would be the boring parts they took out? And I think you could gain almost the same messages from each one. So, like, there's a boring part of your life, or there's like a problem, and maybe they could exploit it, maybe they could hide it, and you would notice that.
I don't know. I guess I rarely would trust a Hollywood movie as being particularly illustrative. I mean, I know your argument's not bad, but I wonder, like, I assume, when I think of this question myself, I assume that in the Hollywood picture, they want to make my life more interesting, so, like, I'd be an orphan instead of having parents. And I'd be like, well, okay, I guess I'm more hard scrabble.
In the documentary, is there a guarantee that the interviews of your friends and family are like 100% honest? Because if not, then I mean, they could just be like saying really great
Well,
stuff.
you know what? That's is there a guarantee? There is no guarantee. There is no, I mean, you think of your friends. How good a job would they do at describing what you're like? It's always interesting. I've been in documentaries. I've been involved with documentaries. It's one of my favorite art forms. It's probably the reason why I'm interested in this idea of a documentary about my life. But, something often happens when a celebrity dies. something to think about if you ever become any degree of famous. Okay? Someone dies, there are stories about that person. Reporters are looking for the people, broadcasters looking for the people. And they're not necessarily going to find the people who know you best. They're going to find the people who are most interested in being in a documentary, or most interested in talking to a reporter. So think of the people in your life. Think if there was a tragedy here. Think of like, who'd be the most likely to run to the reporter and say like, quote me? Would that person be a good source? That's the thing. I mean, like, I gotta say, my closest friend, my very best friend, I know he would not be in this documentary. He'd never do it. He's the person who knows me the best, but he would, I like to have two best friends. One would, and one wouldn't. Because the desire to be in something is a personal thing. It's not as though they are being compelled to be in this. It's like they're choosing to. So it's a good thing to worry about.
I feel like they would make my life into a really bad Bollywood movie. But I have one good friend who's brutally honest with me, and she will tell me if I look bad in my favorite dress, and I know she will because I can change her. So I would be interested in seeing my life in real, but then I would want to see the bad Bollywood movie.
Okay, I'm going to do two more questions here. Okay. Second to last one's called grizzly weather. Think of someone who is your friend. Do not select your best friend, but make sure the person you're thinking about is someone you would classify as considerably more than an acquaintance. So do this right now in your mind. Think of a friend, not your best friend, but a real friend. Okay. This friend is going to be attacked by a grizzly bear. Now, this person will survive the bear attack. That is guaranteed. There is a 100% chance your friend will live. However, the extent of his or her injuries is unknown. He might receive nothing but a few superficial scratches, but he might also lose a limb or multiple limbs. He might recover completely in 24 hours with nothing but a great story to tell, or he might spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Yeah. Somehow, you have the ability to stop this attack from happening. You can magically save your friend from the bear. But his salvation will come at a peculiar price. If you choose to stop the bear, it will always rain. For the rest of your life, wherever you go, it will be raining. Sometimes it will pour, and sometimes it will drizzle. But it will never not be raining. But it won't rain over the totality of the earth, nor will the hydrological cycle be disrupted. These storm clouds will be isolated, and they will be isolated to you, and they will focus entirely on your specific whereabouts. You will never see the sun again, but just you. Okay? Do you stop the bear and accept a lifetime of rain? That guy.
I've experienced 3 days of rain before. We never want to do it again, so no. He's getting
What? Yes. No, it's not like just on you. It would be raining here tonight. It would be raining outside, and if you went to New York, it would follow you to New York. If you went to Hawaii, it would be raining in Hawaii. What? Yeah. Well, how would that impact your answer? This friend who you saved from the bear attack would be like, no more of that guy.
Can you just go to places that have routes and just save?
That's a great answer. Some people have said that they would move the Sahara and basically save Africa.
for sure, like, to what extent he would be injured. And so I think that, like, he could get extremely injured, like, lose all his limbs, and he'll be like, become like, be an honest man, like, be awesome. Like, he could gain from that experience of being injured.
Well, you know, the very first time I ever asked this question, as a bar in New York called the 11th Street Bar, there's a bunch of us sitting around the table. And instead of saying pick a friend, I actually used one of our friends, a woman named Jenny Williams. I just kind of arbitrarily picked her, was a friend of everybody at the table. And another person at the table named Phoebe was like, well, Jenny has a good spirit. She might like telling the story. like she basically convinced herself that Jenny would want to be attacked by her. Like it would.
We get to pick the friend, right? Like if we like.
Well, you picked it already. Who you picked first? You can't later go like everybody. If you could pick the friend, everyone would.
No. But like you pick the friend knowing that they're going to be attacked by bears, so you could pick like a kind of a bigger.
Well,
like,
who'd you think of? Well, I don't want you to say.
It's like someone who is like strong or something who like
No,
could take a bear.
It's like the first line is to think of someone you know. So it has to be. It's got to be picked at random. You can't pick like your most anti-bear friend.
No, but like,
Here's the last one we're gonna do. Okay. This one's called a kick in the ribs. This also involves a friend of yours. Okay. This time it's your best friend. Okay. Your best friend, whoever that may be, is taking a nap on the floor of your living room. Suddenly, you are faced with a bizarre existential problem. He or she is going to die unless you kick this slumbering friend as hard as you can in the ribcage. If you don't do this, he or she will never wake up. However, you can never explain your actions. If you later inform your friend that you did this to save his or her life, your friend will die from that. So you have to kick a sleeping friend in the ribs, and you can't explain why. Since you, no, it's not done yet. Okay. Since you can't tell your friend the truth, what excuse will you fabricate to explain this seemingly inexplicable attack? Well, this girl, she has an answer. She wants to answer the question. So you would spend your whole life pretending you were afraid of spiders. Oh, you are. Okay. How you're the friend? Okay. How understanding would you be of that scenario? You're sleeping. Bam. What happened? Spider.
I feel like I wouldn't be able to create an excuse like that quickly, so I would just as long as like they may not be my friend anymore, but I saved them. So
Yeah.
I just feel like I kicked you.
Yeah.
I would absolutely kick the friend that her, by the way. And I mean, like, I'm sure they'll get over it. Like, even if you talk to the stupid,
Yeah.
like, you kick them, like, it happens.
I had a friend in college. We both punched each other twice. We got over it eventually, you know. Although we did have reason.
It's not like you're gonna have, like, a horrible fight.
So are you able to say to this friend of yours, I kicked you, but I can't tell you why, but it was for a reason, and then they would
You
decide-
could say that. You know how that would work. I think the spiders are better than that. Okay. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Lay low. Yeah, you gotta kick him. There's no, you gotta do the kicking.
And my excuse would be, I was screaming, I was yelling his name, I was trying to shake him, but he wasn't waking up.
You thought he was
I
dead.
thought he was dead.
You thought he was dead.
Yeah, oh, that's a good
I mean, like, it's your, you know, if it's really like your best friend, like, I mean, depending on the person, but like, I have like, maybe not the ribs, but I have, you know, definitely hit my best friend before without reason, but like if I knew in my head there was a reason, and like, I mean, you know, like the question is how crafty of a liar can you be, and which I think I can safely say I could quickly come up with, oh, this happened and that, and like knowing my best friend, like he would maybe get pissed at me for like the rest of the day and move on, and that. Those maybe 8 hours he's like rubbing his ribs and getting pissed at me is way better than like 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road where he's not there.
Yes. Well, how about you? Okay, that's not so bad. Okay.
I'm gonna pretend like I didn't do it.
I feel like this question would be a lot more split if it was like, if you think your friend's business will never talk to you again. And right now it's kind of one of those things that like either immediate effect or effect that'll never kind of go away. So I feel it's not that hard of a. You know,
No, the question is not whether or not you do the kicking. I think everyone do the kicking. This is actually just kind of a creativity test in a way. Like, and the reason I want to end with it is because, like, okay, I do a lot of readings in bookstores. You know, oh, this guy wants to answer the question. What?
And then all pretend to be sleeping, like say at a back, you just kick each
What were you saying? That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's Bible and anything else. But the thing is, you know, I always say there's no right or wrong answers to this. As it turns out, I think that there is. I was doing a book reading in New York, and when you do a book reading, different kind of people show up. People who like your book, people who just have heard about you, and then some people who just like go to book readings because it was in the paper. And then maybe the next day they go to a park board meeting. You know, they just show up. Okay? So there's like an 80-year-old guy at my book reading. Not really my target audience generally, but I think it's interesting. There's an old man there, and he's sitting listening to go through all this. And we're going through these questions, and he just kind of sits there, and in my back of my mind, I'm always thinking, like, does he hate this? Does he think it's crazy? I asked this question, and he like raises his hand, and he says, I'd set the couch on fire. And I was like, what? He's like, set the couch on fire and say, the couch is on fire, and kick the guy in the ribs. And that made me realize old people have something to offer. Okay, so that's the end of this part. It's already 8:20. I'm gonna stick around here until about 8:45. If you wanna, I mean, if you want to stay here and just ask me questions, I'll stay up here. But you can ask about these things or anything else. But if you want to leave now, that's totally fine.